Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. So, depending on what episode you guys watched last, I actually talked about a pretty sensitive topic, which is women and their desire, or maybe for some of you guys, lack of desire to be mothers or be a parent and like what that role looks like. So, I thought that this week we would do something a little bit more casual, something that's not so heavy, not so intense. Today, we're going to be talking about fucking sales, okay? Just kidding. I clearly chose the most intense topic in the world because I've been having so many conversations specifically for potential By the Blazer clients. As every time I say that, that's what I'm really talking about. But I get a lot of DMs, you guys. I get DMs on a daily basis from people who are like, how'd you build your business so quickly? How'd you scale so quickly? How do you sign so many clients? But the other question I get a lot is like, how are you so good at sales? Like, what does that look like? And so I kind of wanted to approach this topic into two different categories. One is like how I got here in my sales journey, and then two, like how I now navigate sales and how I look at sales now, so that you guys can kind of understand both parts. Because I think if I just go straight into like, let me show you my sales skills, like let's talk about our frameworks, let's talk about our process, you guys are going to shit a brick, because I know most of you guys don't know how to sell. And I don't say that in a mean way. I don't say that to be negative, but if you are a female, or anyone really, but you're a female who listens to this podcast, because a lot of you bitches, you are ladies, you like to be successful, you like to make money, you like all the things. You guys might have a business and you're looking to scale a business, or you might want to climb the corporate ladder. And if there's any skill set that you can invest in right now in order to expedite your pathway to being rich as fuck, it is sales. Now, that does not mean picking up a phone and cold calling someone and saying, hey, ma'am, do you want to buy my blah, blah, blah? Sales is really just about persuasion. And we're going to talk a little bit about my philosophy, which a lot of people have, followed suit on, or I know I've heard this in many different things and invent this, but sales being a dance, right? It's really this kind of joint partnership between you and that other person to come to some type of conclusion that gets someone the results they're looking for, makes sense from a pricing standpoint, is what someone's needing at the time, is what someone's craving at the time, whatever it is. It's this communication between two parties that operates like a dance, and you guys move harmoniously together to get to this end goal. That's really all sales is. But I think when people think sales, they think slimy, they think car salesperson, they think all this stuff that is not true. And we are going to debunk that a little bit today. So in order to do that, I wanted to give you guys some background into my sales journey, so that if I'm talking about sales, you understand that I'm coming from a perspective of 10, 15 plus years, which now I'm sounding really old saying that out loud, of expertise, not, oh my gosh, I just learned sales and now I'm so fucking good and blah, blah, blah. To be very clear, I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday. I grabbed drinks with one of my good friends. Her intern lives here in St. Louis. We met and she was asking me about sales, and we literally had this conversation. So I'm kind of regurgitating what I was talking about almost exactly 24 hours ago. But she was asking me kind of how I got my start in business. And I want to be very clear that the only reason that I'm sitting here today, maybe not the only reason, but the top reason, the only reason I have the wealth that I have the business that I have, any of that, is I just know how to persuade people. I know how to sell. And I will tell you, out of any skill that you can learn and master, it's literally why I have the client roster that I do, it is the ability to be persuasive and to get people to take action. Because if you can do that, your management of clients is going to be easier. Your ability to get people to buy from you is easier. Your ability to persuade people in a single piece of content is going to be easier. So everything we really do is centered around sales. And my journey in sales really got started in college, but I do feel like my ability to be persuasive started at a much earlier age. You guys already know a lot of my journey, but I started working at a very young age because I was 5'8" when I was going to sixth grade. I had a size 10 shoe. In fact, my high school, one of the women who was working at our middle school at the time, I was sixth, seventh grade. I remember I came in late because I was running late that day for school, and someone literally looked at me and they're like, sorry, we don't allow high school students to visit. I just really did have I looked like an adult, let's say, at a young age. So I kind of always got away with working jobs that I probably had no ability to do at the time, or I shouldn't have even been dabbling in yet, babysitting. I was babysitting in fourth and fifth grade. I don't know why people assume just because I looked more adult at age 12 that I had any right babysitting a 7-year-old, but I did. So I was babysitting in fourth, fifth, sixth grade. I was dog sitting, house sitting. I was doing a lot of things that people didn't really dabble into until they were 15 or 16. I was doing literally before I even entered into middle school. So I got very lucky that presenting myself in a way that showed that I was capable, that I would do a good job. I kind of learned that very quickly, and I was kind of forced to learn that very quickly. So I wouldn't say that I was taught that in any way. I just think that I was tall and I was poised and I just, wanted to make money because my dad told me I needed to make money, and here we are. So that was kind of the beginning journey. But then it really was into high school that I remember realizing just how important it is to be persuasive. And again, there was no like exact moment where I was like, I developed this skill set or I was going to get good at the skill set. I just always thought that like in order to be successful, you had to like be good at sales. Like, I don't know, I just assumed business was sales, and it really is. And so I kind of always came in with that mindset. I never like shied away from selling. It was just something that I like felt like I needed to do. I was really good at interviewing. My dad was very big on like me learning about interviewing and resumes. And so I like would literally like watch videos of interviews and resumes. When I went to college, would go into the career center and I would do like role plays. Like I just was always learning how to sell myself. And I always felt very comfortable doing that. And so then it just transitioned to like selling myself to selling things, products, services. And really where my like sales journey started was in college. I remember in like maybe sophomore year when you had to decide your like specific major, I had chosen marketing, but you could choose like how do you know what they really call it? Like a emphasis. I wanted to choose an emphasis. Thank you, Lex. And there was marketing research, which sounded disgusting. So I was like, absolutely not. There was marketing and advertising. And I remember all of my friends thought that that was like the cool one. They're like, ooh, like you just do design and this and whatever. And I was like, I don't want to like be like you loser. So I didn't want to do that. I was like, I want to be the most professional, sophisticated one. So when I saw marketing, sales, and sales management, I saw the word management. And for some reason I was like, that looks the most professional. Like I want to be the CEO, not the little admin designer person. This is how my fucking asshole brain was thinking at 21 apparently, or 20. And so I chose marketing, sales, and sales management. Well, the sales and sales management piece was very important because 6 out of however many major classes I took had to be sales classes, meaning not a lot of people are in those classes because who the fuck wants to learn sales? So I was in like classes of like 15 people doing role plays and literally having company executives come in, and I had to sell their services to them. So I took like 5 or 6 sales classes in college. And then I also remembered that I was seeing a lot of really successful people or people who I like looked up to because I was in that program getting jobs at certain companies. One of them being Enterprise Rent-A-Car. You guys have probably rented a car at some point in your day. Maybe you don't like Enterprise because they're more expensive than like their competition. But obviously Enterprise is a big player in the rental car game. And so I remember my sophomore year going into my junior year, I interviewed at Enterprise. And I remember so vividly walking into that interview because first of all, I was like little baby Ashley. I was so small. And I remember sitting down with this super nice guy. So like kind of can literally visualize his face. Don't remember his name. And he like literally started the interview with, so you're a sophomore. And I said, yeah. He goes, we don't take sophomores. And I remember being like, you're not going to fucking tell me you're not going to hire me. Like, I'm not going to like not get this job. So they actually, at the time, Enterprise only took juniors and seniors, or juniors going into senior year or seniors graduating into the internship, because their whole goal is you do the internship for a summer and then you get a full-time job right after. Like they either offer you a job for the next year or you get the job right after that. And so they don't take sophomores because sophomores would then have 2 summers before they graduate. And a lot of people then would probably take different internships. Like the whole point of sales is like, we get you in and then immediately sell you into the full-time job here. So they're like, yeah, we don't take sophomores. And I was like, well, what if I'm like the best candidate you ever hire? And he's like, all right, well, let's see. And I remember just like being ballsy. And I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. I was like, yeah. So I have this conversation. And, I remember even at one time, he's like, so you don't have any sales experience? And I was like, no, but I was like, I'm extremely persuasive and like, I'm the hardest worker you'll ever met. And a lot of my journey in enterprise and selling myself in college was I'm paying for college myself. And it's really interesting because I want to remind you guys that so often we're like, I have to have this exact skill set. This is perfect for you guys if you're interviewing right now or looking for jobs. People just want to understand that you can make connections. So, and what I mean by that is not you go up and shake someone's hand connection. I'm talking about the fact that you understand what they're trying to accomplish, the end goal, and you can get to the end goal. So they don't care that you have 6 years of management experience. They want to know that you know how to lead people. So if you can convince them that you know how to lead people, they don't give a shit that you have 6 years. And please don't argue that one with me because I will literally beat you every single time. Yes, sometimes they care about X amount of years, but you guys are taking that as like the job title, not the skill set. And so when I went into this interview, he's like, like convince me that you're persuasive, convince me that you could like do this. And I said, how many students have you ever met? Like, how many people have you interviewed with that they're going to graduate debt free? He's like, I'm not really sure. A couple of them. I said, how many of them are 100% funding their own college education and already had a year and a half of college saved for before they even entered into junior year? And he's like, I don't know anyone who's done that. I said, well, nice to meet you. And I literally was like ballsy as fuck. And so I'm like coming in hot, being direct. I also remember I was afraid he was going to do like the sell me this pen type challenge, which you guys see a lot in sales. He was talking to me about my sorority. He's like, do you think your sorority's great? And I was like, oh yeah, it's the best, whatever. He's like, why would my daughter need to join? And I literally like asked him questions and collaborated. Long story short, I get at the end of that interview and I remember I walked out and I was walking to my car and I kind of turned and I could see inside the building and he's like talking with someone like staring at me. And I get into my car and I literally sit in my car and I cried. I was so terrified because I'm like, I cannot believe how direct I was in that interview. I hope I got it. And literally got a call like 2 weeks later and I literally beat out, I think 1,400 people for that internship. And I was the only sophomore they hired. And that was like one of the greatest experiences. So of course I had to hustle on that. At Enterprise, what you basically do is a lot of the income that the company makes is on the additional, the kind of the bonuses, the upsells to the rental car. So the rental car obviously has a pretty fixed cost, but then there's a cost associated with like the insurance and the additional things that you can sell someone. So that's really what they were looking for me to sell. And I was a top performing intern that summer. I actually interned for the next summer. They did offer me a job. I did decline. But then shortly after that internship, I actually ended up going to Disney and I interned for Disney and I ended up doing retail sales. And even though you think retail sales, standing in a store, like someone asks for a shirt and you grab it in a large, I actually was chosen to go out and sell at the little glow cart areas, which really is sales because you see those little kids walking around. Your job is literally go up and entice them with that fugly ass Buzz Lightyear spinny toy and try to get their parents to drop $20 basically in the course of like a couple minutes. And we actually, me and the girl that I was working with on New Year's Eve night, set the Disney World record for glow cart sales in downtown Disney. I probably don't have that record anymore, but in 2013, I definitely did. So I liked being rewarded for the success I was having. I liked the achievement piece of like someone being like, fuck yeah, like you crush it. And then when I graduated, because I had paid for school, I did not want to have a commission-only job. I actually didn't realize that sales jobs could be salary. So I ended up working at Target for 2 years in management, hated not making a lot of money, and then I was recruited into sales after that. And so once I got to Paycom, once I was in like sales, that was when I was cold calling. I was, knocking on executives' doors. I'm not going to go into like all the details of that. I'd be happy to talk about that in another episode. But I just want to like very much articulate that like I have always been a salesperson. And also in those experiences, because they expected me to sell, I had to learn processes. And a lot of times with sales, people are like, they hopped on a call, they're interested, they're going to buy from me, or they have money, they're going to buy from me. I was talking to a client the other day. She's like, this client probably has more money than any other person. Why does she think I was expensive? And I said, just because someone has money doesn't mean that they're going to spend it. Like I could go buy a Lamborghini right now. I have no desire to. Like I'm not going to spend that just because I can. There's people who literally live extremely frugal and they could afford to buy a lot of things that you guys might have in your closet right now. So thinking about the intentionality of really understanding how people buy, how people, get navigated to the end conversation, what things need to happen in order for someone to buy. Those are things that I developed over time. And I think that's why when I transitioned into business, it was kind of easy for me because my whole thought process is like, if I can get someone on a call, I know how to convince someone to buy. So my whole thing with content was like, I'm going to activate someone to the point where they're like, I have to talk with this girl, even if they don't even know what I'm about. If I get them on the call, they will be a client. And that's all I did. It's literally all I did. I had a scalable offer I could funnel a lot of people into. I had amazing marketing. I sold and I got people into the offer. 50K months literally by month 6. Like all I did. So now transitioning into sales and teaching sales, one of the things that I realize a lot when I talk to women is like they just really struggle with the idea of like how do people buy? And so I actually want to spend a little bit of time, if it's okay with all of you guys. I know y'all fucking hate sales, but here we fucking are. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about like how you guys need to approach sales. Because one of the things that I learned from one of my bosses at Paycom, he would always say this. He goes, people only buy for 2 reasons. One is they have decided that they need to make a change. So if someone doesn't decide that they need to make a change, not want to make a change, need to make a change, they're not going to move forward. It doesn't matter how amazing you are, how cheap you are, whatever. A lot of you guys are getting stuck in that like, not now, I'll think about it, whatever. That person hasn't decided that they're going to make a change. So you literally are just shit out of luck. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is that they have to see you as the right person to facilitate that change. That's where your frameworks, your methods, your unique way of solving problems comes in. If people look at, let's say, 10 options and 10 people are selling apples and then you sell oranges, Or if people aren't convinced that they want an orange, they're going to buy one of the apples. But it's going to be a lot harder for them to choose an apple because aren't all the apples pretty much the same fucking thing? Then they choose on price, or they choose on like which salesperson they like the most, or they choose on like, silly, stupid shit. But if you can convince people to buy the orange, you're the only one selling the orange. This is why in business, a lot of you guys are struggling, is because you guys are thinking about all the shit that people care about and you're trying to be just another apple and you're trying to be the best apple. What if instead you can be the orange? And what I mean by that is, do you know how to explain solving problems in a way that makes people say, whoa, this is different than everyone else? Do you know how to explain the way that you tackle certain issues that someone's dealing with in a unique way? Do you have a unique method, a unique process? If someone gets bought into wanting an orange and you are the only person selling an orange, it doesn't matter if you are 5 times the price point. It doesn't matter if you are the newest at what you do and your oranges, literally like you just started selling them yesterday, they're going to buy an orange. The lesson that I want to kind of talk to you guys about is how to be the orange when your other 9 competitors are selling different size, price point, levels of shininess, different types of apples. In order to really understand that, I want to talk to you guys about a framework that we use in sales, which is called the strip method. This is kind of our proprietary take on our sales process. This has kind of been adapted in a lot of different ways over the course of like the last 6, 7, 8 months. But ultimately for us, there's kind of 5 steps to getting someone to buy from you that day. Like literally they decide that they want to get a fruit. They decide they're going to buy the orange, and they decide that they want that orange so bad that they're going to literally buy it immediately. Like that's kind of what we're trying to achieve here. That's what the strip method can do for you. So this is applicable regardless of what you're selling. Now, if you're selling products, the process is a little bit different than selling a service. So we're really focusing on like services, or if you're thinking about like yourself, you can think about this too and kind of apply it to like, selling yourself in content. You can talk about the selling yourself from a resume standpoint or like a interview standpoint, but this is really like sales conversation specific. Like if you were talking to someone in the DMs, in sales calls, like how do you get them to buy? The first thing that we have to tackle, right, is getting them to agree that they need to make a change. How does someone agree that they need to make a change? They have to verbalize their current state. They have to literally say, oh my gosh, I am so clear of what's going on right now that I can see the problem in front of me. I know I need to do something with the problem. Now, a lot of you guys make this mistake in sales is you ask questions like, what are your goals? Where do you want to be? Blah, blah, blah. And then you immediately go into like, I can help you. Well, duh, probably. They won't reach out to you if they didn't think you would help you, but they haven't actually committed to making a change yet. So they can't be open to your help until they know that they want to change. Or else what they do is they might love what you do. You'll hear this a lot of like, I love what you do, but I'm not really sure this is the right time. But they aren't really sure that they need to make a change. So before you pitch them on you, before you decide that you are going to be the orange, you have to get them to want fruit. You have to get them to say, I am looking for fruit. If they're not looking for fruit, it doesn't fucking matter that you're an orange, right? So first thing we have to do is basically what we do is we identify someone's signal and we get them to articulate what we call their signal. The signal is the thing that's occurring in their current reality that is basically activating them to the point of understanding that they have a problem. So what do I mean by that? For a lot of the times we talk about just kind of like, what are people's general symptoms? What are the things that people are experiencing? What are all these like heaviness? You get people to talk about what's happening in their current reality, but ultimately you need to ask them questions that gets them to say, I'm seeing a trend here, or I've hit a breaking point where I don't know where to go further. Because the reason that people buy a service is because they've gotten to a point where they're like, I can't do this on my own, or I can't, keep going this way, or I can't like continue down this method, or it's not going to get me the results I want. So your job as a salesperson is to basically ask questions to get them to identify that signal. So examples of that might be, you told me that you're really struggling with sales. How many conversations have you had with people in the last, couple months? Awesome. How many of those ended up being real clients? Like how many signed? Only half. Okay. So out of the half that didn't sign, what are they telling you is keeping them from buying? Well, they, don't like my price point. Okay. If they got another 10 conversations this month, do you agree that then 5 of them are still going to say, probably most likely, that they won't buy from you for price? So if you continue through the rest of the year, do you agree that you're at this point where you're probably going to lose out on about, let's say, $300,000, $400,000 of revenue based on the price point of your signature offer because you're only closing about 40 to 50% of the people that you're talking to? Got it. So like you see, I'm asking questions. It's not you telling them. The issue that so often we do in sales is we want to talk. Our job is to ask questions to get them to talk. And a lot of the times if you talk to like really good salespersons, they're going to call it like let them bleed. You want to basically get them to spill everything. Give them all the data. The more ammo you have, the more you can use. So you want them to get basically to this point where they're saying, yeah, like I actually have no idea how to get people to buy at my current price point, or I keep having blah, blah, blah issue, or I've tried it this way, but like I know that I can't do this anymore. Then what you do is based on what that signal is, I want you to think about you're going to a doctor's office and you basically have gotten like a diagnosis, right? Like I went to the doctor's office and I said, like I have a headache, blah, blah, blah. Your job is now to basically take their what is happening to the why it's happening, which is what we call the thread. You have to create a thread between the signal that is existing and why that signal makes them need to make a change now. And what I mean by that is if I, say, okay, so you've had X amount of sales conversations, all this. Yes, I did ask the question in the example a couple minutes ago about like, do you agree that if you keep going down this road that you're going to lose out on this revenue? People assume that that's the thread. The thread has to be a layer deeper than that, where you basically actually connect the bigger why of the what. So the what is what's going on, and then the why is why that what is in existence. So instead of just leaving it at that, I actually have to articulate back to them and get their buy-in that they have to make a change. And what I mean by that is you want to ask a question, something along the lines of like, so do you agree that this is the problem that we have to solve? Do you agree that if we don't continue down this path, that you are not going to be at the results that you want? Do you agree that this is the thing that we have to tackle together? You have to get their buy-in on that, or else they are not basically giving you permission to then sell the orange. So they have to admit that they want fruit so that you can then go pitch yourself as the orange. So for that one, I might then say, so at this point, you basically haven't determined how to navigate and pre-handle objections that get someone to basically want to buy from you regardless of price point, right? You are getting to the point where if people are already bought in, if they're really activated, they might stretch themselves to afford your price point. But if you haven't literally done every single checking of the box process before someone goes to buy, they're never going to buy from you because they're always going to be stuck on price, right? So you then agree that we have to be able to pre-handle objections, thing number one. And two, we have to be able to put you in a state where people are going to buy from you regardless of price because you've actually already navigated them through a rinse and repeat process that gets them to have to make a decision, not they're only going to do it if they can afford it. Okay, so now that we know that that's our problem, then what we transition to after that is our resolution. So once we've created a thread from their signal, we take that thread and we move it to what we call the resolution. The resolution are the shifts that we need to make with them to give them the fix to that thread that we created. So if we took the signal is happening because there's some type of issue, right? They're activated by this is what's happening, this is what the issue is. Then we're going to create that thread. The thread is what ties together the what's that's happening and how we're going to fix that what so that doesn't happen anymore. So this is where we're going to talk about shifts. This is, hey, you keep having XYZ issues, so the first thing that we need to do is this. The second thing we need to do is this. The third thing we need to do is this. There's usually 3 or 4 shifts that you have to make with someone to ultimately get to that root cause, and that's what we're going to pitch here. This is where you sell someone who wants fruit on wanting the orange, not the apple. So again, a lot of the times what people do in sales is they go into this point where they'll say things like, oh yeah, so I can help you here. We can make, especially with business coaches, we can give you a good content plan. We can help with this. I can help with this. Every business coach can say that. But if I say something along the lines of, and I'll go back to the example that I was giving. If I say something along the lines of, okay, like the first thing that we need to do is we need to identify what is most activating to your audience and what's going to actually make them pull the trigger, right? Do you agree that, you see how I always ask questions, do you agree that if you know why people are going to buy, then the only thing you need to do in the sales process is make sure every single element that they need to consider in order to move forward is tied back to their ultimate reason that they're going to pull the trigger? Great. So instead of having 85 different processes, instead of thinking about all these different elements and changing your process based on what they're saying, you need to know how to determine their activation point and just sell to that, right? So that's the first thing that we need to uncover. What other business coaches saying that? Unless you just are going to copy and paste it and now use it. No one. That's an Ashley Bennington thought process that I'm including. That's my orange, right? That's one of my oranges. The second thing might be this. The third thing might be this. And again, the most important thing is after we tell them the resolution, then we are going to basically get their buy-in. We call it micro commitments. We get people to say yes throughout the process. So then at the end, when we pitch them something big, they're already used to saying yes to us and they just say yes. So you navigate them through that resolution and get them to agree that now they want the orange. So one of the best questions that you can ask once you go through your resolution is, do you agree that those are the exact steps that we need to take in order to give you step number 4, which is impact? The impact is what is going to exist if the resolution is executed. So if you follow step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, if those things are done, that is going to give you XYZ impact. So that could be 20K months. It can be that every single time you sit down with your husband, you guys are both communicating effectively and you can navigate difficult conversations or arguments without any like heaviness or like long-term negative impact. It might be that you are going to lose 20 pounds. It might be that you are going to whatever, right? There's going to be some type of impact. It doesn't have to be money related. I don't just sell business coaches and money makers. That the resolution, if executed correctly, is going to give you that impact. So if you can articulate to them and say, if we do those things, do you agree that that's the only way and the best way to get you to X goal? If they say yes, that is them communicating, assuming all the other pieces are good, that they want an orange. So guess what? If you're the only orange, they have to work with you. They literally have to. Now, they might hesitate on price. They might have some objections that they give you. Sure. But now they are agreeing that they need to make a change. They want the fruit and they want the orange, which means that you are going to win the deal. Now you just need to navigate price. And so the last step then to the sales process is what we call the path. So again, strip method, P is path. Pathway to the sale is basically now that they want the impact. They agreed at the beginning that they want this impact. That's why they had the meeting with you. They've now agreed that they want to make a change. They've agreed that your resolution is the only way to get them the impact that they want. Now it's great. So if you want then 30K months client, if you want to have amazing conversations with that, if you want to lose 30 pounds, if you want to whatever it is, this is what we need to do to give you that. You see how it's like literally like it's one continuous long conversation. If you want that then now client, this is how we do it. And the two things that most of the time that you guys need to get in order to get someone to buy right then and there on the call is the date and the time. So what date and what time are they going to sign? And what I mean by that is if you're on a call and you're selling a $1,200 package and you don't do contracts or invoices or any of that, it's going to be on the call. So if I'm talking to someone on the call and I say, hey client, so now that we've agreed that this is the only way to get you to 30K months, you agree that like I'm the right partner to you in this process. Okay, amazing. Are you open to talking about how we can get you there? Like we can literally get you started next month, like next week. Is that good? Amazing. So in order to get you started, the only thing I need is, and then you're going to pitch in pricing and say, does that sound good to you? Awesome. Let's go ahead. I'm going to drop that link. Let's get you started. Done. Or if it's contract and invoice, awesome. So I'm going to get off this call right now. We've agreed that the 3 payments of $1,000 are good. Awesome. I'm going to send you that invoice and contract. If I send you that right now, is there any reason you can't have, great question, any reason that you can't have it done in the next like 30, 40 minutes? No problem. I'm going to literally do it in the next 10 minutes when I get off the call. Awesome. Date and time is 10 minutes from now. Date today, 10 minutes from now. So that conversation of like, how do you get someone then to buy? Now, objection handling and other things we can tackle in another conversation. I'm actually going to shameless plug. I have 2 sales trainings that you guys literally all need to take. Seal the Deal is on the strip method. So I literally deep dive this in like full blown fashion, like literally role play all the things. And the second one is our Too Hot to Not Handle Objections Masterclass. So we actually do bundle those. If you guys are curious at all, just send me a link on Instagram. I can literally get you that bundle. But objection handling, we want to try to get those objections before we get to price. So if we're like, awesome, are we like, starting as early as next week? Like, does that sound good? They might be like, yeah, but what's the price? Like, I don't know if I can afford this. Yeah, no problem. I actually am about to go over options for you based on what we talked about. I just want to make sure we're also bought in on timeline because that might change some of the elements of price. Great way. Yeah, no, I do want to get started immediately. Okay, so you want to get started immediately. So we're going to make this really easy. We're looking at 3 payments basically of $1,000 for a total of 3K over the next 3 months. Do you want to go ahead and just pay it in full, or do you want to do those 3 payments of $1,000? Which one works best for your budget? I know there's a lot of sales gurus who are like, I don't do payment plans. I fucking hate them. You want the pay in full. First of all, pay in full is cheaper for the client, which means it's less money for me. So I don't need the client to do pay in full. It's not significantly, I don't charge a lot more for payment plans, just like teeny bits because we have admin fees and things with that. But I like payment plans. I want recurring revenue out. I don't want everyone to just pay in full this month. That's like not my vibe. If people want to, that's great. So like I'm not anti-payment plan, but I know some people are a little bit weird about that. So that's a whole other world. But you're going to basically pitch whatever that next step is. So you want them to then basically articulate what works better for them. Again, very collaborative energy, which one works better for your budget. And at that point, then hopefully we close. But the thing that if hopefully you guys notice when I'm going through that process is the ultimate reason that we navigate those steps is because of how people buy. A lot of the times when people are reaching out to you, you let the prospect, the potential client, dictate the conversation. They message you and say, what's the price? And you're like, here's the price. And then they don't message you. They haven't agreed that they want to make a decision and change, and they don't agree that you're the orange. So they're going to look at your price point and go buy a fucking apple or not do anything because they don't even want fruit yet. And I know I'm using like silly examples, but when you guys cut corners in sales, when you guys don't know how to navigate someone through, like literally like snake them through those 5 elements, you put them in a position where they can't really actually make a decision. So then you get pissed when someone goes to you, but you put them in a position where they can't make a decision because you just gave them information that doesn't even make any sense to them, that doesn't actually help them. If you can't help them decide that they need to make a change, then who cares that you're 5K or 2K? No one cares. If they are looking at apples and oranges and they don't understand that you're an orange, then they have to decide which fruit that they actually want first. And they're going to find probably a really cheap apple and be like, this does the same thing as the orange. It's fruit. It's healthy. It gives me the same nutritional value. So if you guys can really understand how people buy, your ability to then take that, like I literally use elements of the strip method in content. I use it in our sales sequence, like our story sequence. I use it in emails. I literally use those 5 elements almost everywhere because those are the things that get someone to move forward. And until you guys understand how to navigate that conversation, how to make people feel safe in that conversation, it's going to be very difficult for you guys to dominate in sales the way that you want. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because sales does not need to be hard. It doesn't need to be pushy. If you guys ever are in a sales conversation with me, I hope every single one of you guys one day are a client at some point, if that's something you want to do. A lot of the times when clients end conversations, they're like, that was the easiest conversation ever. I don't even feel like you were selling me something. Because sales is a dance. It's a conversation. If they say, I'm struggling, then my job is to say, awesome. Can we figure out the root cause of why you're struggling? Can I figure out why you're struggling? That thread, you're asking permission to do it. They put their left foot forward, you put your right foot forward, or whatever it is, right? I don't know how to dance, so that's probably a horrible analogy for me. But like, it's literally a conversation. If they say, yeah, I'm feeling a lot of heaviness around blah, blah, blah. Do you mind if I ask you questions on that? Like, you guys always push back. Like if someone pulls, you're like, all right, I'm gonna like try to like literally push on them, literally bring them back in. It's a dance. It's literally like navigating it together. When you guys operate as one unit, this was like the best analogy I learned in college. When people sell, I'm gonna take my phone as an example because I'm a visual learner. When people sell, people are on this side of the table and this side of the table, right? So you have 2 people basically talking at each other. And a lot of the time, salespeople then have to push. They have to yell. They have to like literally like talk to that person this way. Instead, I want you to imagine you're here and your prospect is here. Come on the same side of the table with them and work together to come across the table. So asking questions, getting collaboration, getting buy-in, micro commitments, all those things in a conversation creates kind of this almost partnership in the process. And then when you get to the end and someone says, yeah, that's a lot of money, but like, let's do it. And you're like, that was the easiest yes of my life. It's because you made the yes easy. If you keep making the yes hard, it's going to be fucking hard. It's going to be for you to announce your pricing and ask someone to buy from you. It's also going to be really, really hard for your prospect to say yes. And so I really want to be someone who can change the game around sales. I want to change the narrative around sales. I want women to know how to sell. And I really hope that this episode gives you a little bit of taste into how I teach sales. I'm happy to answer questions on sales literally at any point. But I thought it would be really fun to kind of talk about this topic, even though it was not a light topic. I really apologize about that, and I hope that it's helpful. So action items for you guys this week is if you guys are interested in learning our sales process in depth, seeing me role play, seeing what that process looks like, really getting clear on like how to navigate these conversations where literally you get a 80-90% close rate without fail. Most of our clients are not at almost a 90% close rate. That's literally unheard of. It can be that easy. I want you guys to imagine what that would do for your business. If that is you, I want you to just DM me on the By the Blazer Instagram. Literally just say, hey, watched your podcast episode. I have a special bonus for you guys if you want to learn sales that I can offer you all. If you come from the podcast, just shoot me a quick message. You can do it on my personal account too if you want. And I want you guys to really think about in your next conversation, if I go to say something, can I ask a question instead? And can I get buy-in? If you can learn how to do that in the sales process, the amount of money that you guys will make in corporate, in your corporate sales jobs, climbing the ladder as a business owner in content, it's literally unheard of. So I hope that this episode was fun for you guys. I'm so sorry it was on topics you guys don't like, but it was a topic that I fucking love. So I hope that some of you guys got something out of it, and I will see everyone next week.